There is so much that you can miss just because everything is new, and even if you're slightly familiar with stuff, things go over your head, you misremember, you misunderstand. And how wonderful would it be if you could go back to encapsulated notes and or a video of the class? So this is obviously why we're doing it. There's a quote that's attributed to so many people that says, education is not the filling of a cup, it's the lighting of a fire. And that's a beautiful way of putting it. But even so, there is a really strong idea we have about taking on ideas as new liquid or new water or new wine poured into our cups. And the obvious implication is that if your cup is already full, nothing new can get poured into it. So sometimes when somebody joins jiu-jitsu and they've been doing karate or aikido or something for a very long time, they are actually harder to teach. The graduate by far and away becomes useful quicker in the new paradigm that we're trying to work with, because they don't come with their cup full of ideas of how things ought to be. So this is our little reminder of why the lesson is called Unlearning. But because physically and psychologically, we need to do this from time to time as well. We come into a space and our ability to engage with someone or engage with our kids or our friends or the moment or a project is diminished because of what we carry in the room with us when we come. In the context of playing at a playgroup or playing with a simple game, it's extremely unsatisfying trying to finish that and realizing that there's this piece missing. And that's when we start learning this idea in our hearts and in our minds as children, that sometimes there was something wrong in the box. And then you start building your way in. But in your exercise to build your way in, there'll be a piece of blue sky or green forest where everything looks the same. And then it gets really tricky to find a piece, and you can put it in place and you can keep building, but somehow you get stymied because one of those pieces you put in there looked like the right piece, but it was the wrong piece. And man, this happens with all our beliefs. It happens with all of our emotional entanglements. We have solutions or ideas or fixed ideas about things, and they seem to fit in our predictive model of the world. They seem to match while we're in a rush to complete the thing, but they stop us from getting further along the track. So we're talking about wrong puzzle pieces and bifurcation points. But let's look at this little filters and distortion piece for a moment. So we make the assumption that there's a clear line of transmission between us, and then there's you with your idea and your wishes and expectations of what we're going to go through. And then you're going through your own language filter and your own perception filter, all which we project onto the moment. And not all of our expectations are positive. Some of our expectations are negative because we've had previously negative experiences, like learning that there's a piece missing in the puzzle and something was wrong in the box. And then there are things that we are actually quite unaware of until we take a significant amount of effort and attention to realize that they exist and that they're there. Working for me. But the reason it's not working for you is not because you're doing the wrong thing. It's because the bifurcation point, the belief that your current process and experience is based on is a lower fundamental, something that is behind you or deep inside you or earlier on in your experience that you locked in as a truth. And you can see now why it's important to unpack all your thoughts and beliefs over time. Because if you don't, no amount of moving in the right direction is going to get you on the right track. And we're trying to get the software to override millions of years of hardware, and then bugs happen. And then people put apps on with all good intentions, the Buddhism app or the Hinduism app or the communism app or the Christianity app. Eventually, the sheer enormity of the job becomes worse than a jigsaw puzzle, because the pieces are too small. Because the jigsaw puzzle, you just have to solve in 2D. Imagine the jigsaw puzzle was complex that way as well. And I'm going to go back to the first question. What did love look like as a child? And how was this modeled to you? And what did forgiveness look like? What did it need to look like coming from you? And what were you expected to accept coming from others? And how has that shaped your sense of being able to belong in the world, and your sense of what is good and bad and right and wrong, and your sense of shame and guilt in this moment? It depends on how we invest. And this we call our intentionality. Our time, our energy, and our attention. Our energy is borrowed. Our time is inevitable. It's the road we're walking on. And our attention is the only one that we can turn the light like this. And whatever we put our attention on, we can invest our energy in, and that is how we invest that packet of time. And a packet of time is a cycle. A life is a packet of time. A packet. It's got a beginning, a bulge, and an ending. Starts at birth, it peaks at your high summer, moves towards your autumn, eventually towards your death and rebirth. Every single day, every single lunar cycle, every single day at work, every single conversation with your family, every single playtime with your kid, it's always a packet. There's a beginning, middle bit, and an ending. And you've got 3 budgets that you can control: your time, your energy, and your attention. And the 3 marriages that you need to look after and what you're going to start learning as we go through the MojoDojo is our lives are all going somewhere. The life of the world, even with all of its ugly dysfunction, is necessary, and it's all going somewhere. In a grand scale, this ugliness is a pimple that's coming to a head that has to pop to get the filth out, because we need to evolve and grow as a species as well as individuals. And I need to do that. How do I drop all of that drama and all of that noise and reconnect with this voice that is speaking inside of my heart, that has always spoken, that actually knows when something is wrong, whose voice is drowned out by all the chatter and the noise and the virtue and the expectations and the this and the next thing, so that I am clear and I am present. But it's not just resetting to this little tiny ambition that I inherited from something or someone else. It's also letting go of all that chaff, of all that noise, of all that story, an inherited story about good, about bad, about good child, forgiveness, good man, good woman, forgiveness, all that stuff. I've allowed a story to take over this beautiful, beautiful arc of meaning that my life is following. And I need to reset back to that. And the only way I can reset back to that is by unlearning and letting go all of these projections and these stories and sorting this from that. Which do I put in the backpack to take with me? Which do I put on the shelf and say, that was a beautiful memory and it served me, but it no longer serves me, but I honor it? And which is ready for the bin? It's being open to the idea, just like our glass of water, that I don't know. And I do not want to know that I've reached my age in life and my glass is full. What a boring life. This is an adventure, a daring adventure. And I want to know that I can still fill my cup with stuff, with love, with experience, with heartbreak, with challenges, with growth, with learning. This is my room to grow. And not knowing is most intimate. We are so close to the truth of life when we admit that we don't know. When we're not putting our hand into the bag, shaped in the way of as if we know what it is we're trying to grab and pull out. I want to carry on doing this. And this fills my heart tremendously, because this just gives me a vehicle to put out packets of context and teaching that it's just going to grow into this incredible library. And from these questions, I take prompts and I go do those other little things called direct guidances, where I say, okay, if you're handling rejection, or if you're handling a trepidation, or if you think there's something wrong in the box, here's a 5-minute reset, reframing, just to take like a pill in the matrix to realign your consciousness and go, oh yes, that's the sanity, that's the smart, that's it. Any day awakening, anytime awakening, just things like when I was speaking about the shadow. They're not about problems you're trying to solve, but they suddenly widen your world. And the wider your world and the more language you have to describe it, the more expansive your life is. That when something happens, it's like a small pebble dropping into a very big pond, rather than a boulder crashing into a small pond, upsetting all your water. And you will just find your depth and your resilience and your scope will just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's what the MojoDojo is all about. It's about that widening spiral of actualization.